This is California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. Adam Hill is back. He is a member of the Board of Supervisors in San Luis Obispo County, and we have been living a water crisis in this county and this state. You know it extremely well. We know that the voters were asked to pass a $7.545 billion water bond at the recent November election, and look at this map, Adam Hill. It passed overwhelmingly. 66% of the voters in California said yes. What do you make of that, sir?
Well, hopefully what you can make of it is everybody knows we're in a real serious crisis, and they're willing to pay to find our way out of it. It's not going to just magically disappear. It's not going to be a couple of seasons of rain. We're going to have to do things differently. Some of the things that passed before that came through the legislature that the governor signed, of course, was legislation that for the first time requires us to manage groundwater, especially in basins such as we have two of in our county that are in crisis of some kind, that are in real decline.
Do you attribute the knowledge of the crisis in this county to this county voting for this bond at 64%? I mean, this is not, your bluish of blue counties.
Right,
I mean, it's a pretty purple county.
Yeah.
I mean, it's voting in a very, quote, kind of blue way when it's close to the state average.
Yeah, I think absolutely so. I think that we've had, certainly at the Board of Supervisors, so much on the issue, whether it be the obvious Paso water basin or just other people experiencing problems, especially in rural areas where wells are going down or people's bills are going up, or we're just hearing the message consistently, which is, we don't really have the water to waste anymore. And so I do think that there's certainly a heightened awareness which has served these measures well.
You mentioned groundwater. You mentioned that we have regulation that has been passed this year through the governor signing, Governor Jerry Brown, and that does really change the way we look at groundwater management.
Right.
It requires localities to adopt plans to manage groundwater sustainably. If they do not adopt plans, the state will come in.
Right.
I think about San Luis Obispo County, and it's a county that is fairly protective of property rights, and I want to get a sense from you, where is the county on this? And consider that this is the same county that voted 64% for Prop 1.
Well, I hope we're going to keep making progress when it comes to the Paso Basin, which we focused a lot on, which means getting it, my board getting it, petitioning LAFCO, our local agency on formation, so that it will form a separate water district made up of the stakeholders and allow them to sort of, self-manage it with our help and our assistance and even our money. It's not without controversy, of course, because people are used to thinking of the water beneath their properties as theirs.
Right.
And not seeing it as a common resource, and not necessarily having to think much about their neighbors that could be a mile away. And so this is changing that.
But that really necessitates a change in mindset.
Yeah.
Because we know what's happened in this area with groundwater being overdrafted. We know that our friends north and east of us have seen subsidence. We know there's been some seawater intrusion in this area in groundwater basins. So, this is decades of thinking.
Right. Well, the hope is that whether through carrots or through the stick of the state, that people are going to come to understand that we need to manage this resource, that it really doesn't belong to a particular property or a particular person or a particular industry, that it's a common resource and we have to manage it much better than we have, or else it's going to hurt the economy and hurt everybody.
And this whole notion of kind of we're all in it together, which is what we need people to think. Apparently, San Luis County does feel like it's all in it together because it's passing taxes left, right, and center. Who would have thunk, Adam Hill, that 6 either sales tax or bond measures passed in this county in November of 2014?
Right.
Not a Democratic year, by the way.
Right.
We have 3 school bonds passing, each needing 55%.
Right.
The lowest passage rate was 60%.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I've discovered that on most of these sales tax measures and even some of the bonds for things like the schools, it's such a nonpartisan issue. There's a hardcore group of partisans who believe taxes are theft, and there's really not much you can do with. Happily, that's a small segment of the population, at least here or anywhere in this state. But so in most of these things, you had people just making the case to the voters, look, our schools need help. Our community college needs help. Our city's sales tax really gets paid for by tourists.
But think about this. I mean, this was a year where Democrats stayed home. Democrats vote
Right.
for bond measures, and yet Atascadero, the epicenter, and I don't mean to be disparaging, of the San Luis Obispo Tea Party, the epicenter. 60% voted in favor of a school bond. You got Cuesta, 61% in favor of a school bond. San Luis Coastal, 71%.
Right.
Those are landslide numbers.
Well, that's like I said. I really think that these issues are becoming, at least at the local level. That doesn't mean it's at the state or the national level, but at the local level, these kinds of sales tax measures are nonpartisan. So people are out there that are well-known Republican officials,
Right.
Pushing for it. Well-known Democratic officials, just well-known people in the community who aren't even associated with politics, saying, "Look, let's pass this because we're going to put it into our roads and we're going to fix up our schools," and people get that. So to me, it's heartening that at least at the local level, they can vote against everything at the state and the national if they want. And I get that, but at the local level, they see
Because they
these
can feel
things.
it, hear it, see it.
Exactly, they know it's going to come back into their community.
And in terms of sales tax, 3 sales tax initiatives on the ballot. Atascadero had been the only city in this county with no sales tax dedicated to itself. It passes 59%.
Yep.
San Luis Obispo City passes 70%. Pismo 70%.
Yeah, all good. I think I think the cities have done a good job of making it clear to their citizens how the money's being used, which is, as you pointed out, much harder to do at the state or the federal level. And so there, I think partisan politics plays a greater role. But at the local level, where you can say, look, we're going to show you exactly where we've paved the streets, or we're going to show you exactly where we fix the classrooms, or we're going to show you the potholes. If we can do that, then we want you to also continue this stream of income.
And speaking of potholes, Grover Beach, which I believe is a city in
my district,
supervisorial district.
Right.
So
I love Grover.
Right, they took a different approach. I've talked about this before on the air. I find it quite interesting that if a governmental entity wants to pass a general tax, one needs to get 50% plus one.
Right.
A specific tax, 2/3. Intuitively, I would think you'd want the reverse because the specific tax has strings attached. The general does not.
Right.
But be that as it may, Grover went specific, needed 2/3 for a tax dedicated to roads and bridges, metaphorically speaking.
Pretty much the streets.
As we speak today, and it could change, it's at 66.34.
It's about 8 votes, literally 8 votes short, I think.
Sir.
Yeah. So I think we're going to get it tonight.
Okay, but what
that's my hope.
Okay, but what is that?
Because they're counting, and I think it's going to get.
Okay,
yeah.
But it begs the question about these 2/3 majorities needed for specific taxes. I mean, do we need to reevaluate?
Yeah, I think most of the people that I know in Grover, and I guess they would be in the 66%, understood that we weren't ever going to get our hands around the problem of the streets, the problem is so large that unless we all commit together and put in the money, it'll come back to us, because not only will our streets be better, but our property values will go up. The convincing case was made, and to be honest, having lived in Grover, I can tell you that there is no other issue that if you knock on anybody's door and you say, what matters to you, they'll say streets. They might not agree necessarily on how we're going to get there, but streets.
So 8 votes right now could change. Let's talk about Paso Robles. 2 city council seats are up. The difference between second and third, 7 votes. In Pismo Beach, as we speak today, the difference between being mayor and not being mayor, 15 votes.
15 votes.
Sir.
Yeah.
Does every vote count?
Yeah, clearly, right? I mean, that illustrates it. We've seen elections in the past. I remember a Slow City Council election where somebody won by 11 votes. Alan Settle, who used to be mayor, he had won a city council seat by literally 11 votes, which should illustrate in the past that this has happened.
Julie Rodewald, who's the outgoing registrar in this county, she's elected. She told me a few years back there was a CSD in North County where they had to, I think, draw straws. It was an exact tie.
Yeah, an exact tie. That's the thing. You draw straws or flip a coin. Because we have a tie in Pismo too, which I think will be settled as well. But yeah, when people, and again, maybe this goes back to even the sales tax measure. When you're talking about local, your vote does count.
His name is Adam Hill. He is a member of the Board of Supervisors in San Luis Obispo County. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.